Sunday. We have something super excited planned for you. Today we're going to go on a journey through the story of Easter. We're going to make some stops along our way, so grab your family, grab a Bible if you have one, and let's go. Whenever you go on an adventure, it's important to travel with others. Jesus knew this, and that's why he picked 12 friends to travel with him. This is the first stop on our journey, and here we need to find our travel buddies. So now we're going to read Mark 3, verse 13 to 19 in our Bibles. So grab your Bible and follow along. I'll put the scripture up on the screen as well. Afterward, Jesus went up on a mountain and called out the ones he wanted to go with him. And they came to him. Then he appointed 12 of them and called them his apostles. They were to accompany him, and he would send them out to preach, giving them authority to cast out demons. These are the 12 he chose: Simon, whom he named Peter, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, but Jesus nicknamed them sons of thunder, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, Judas Iscariot, who later betrayed him. Before we can go to the next stop on our journey, I want you guys to pause and discuss these two questions. I'm going to put them up on the screen for you. Here they are. All right, are you ready to head to our next station? Grab your travel buddy and come along with me to the next stop.
Now that you've thought about who would make a great travel buddy, it's time to pack our bags and head off on our next part of the journey. So let's open up our Bibles. We're going to look at the book of Mark, chapter 14, verses 1 through 9. So let's read those together. It was now 2 days before the Passover and the feast of the unleavened bread, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to arrest him by stealth and kill him. For they said, "Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar from the people." And while he was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, he was reclining at table. A woman came with an alabaster flask of ointment of pure nard, very costly, and she broke the flask and poured it all over his head. There were some who said to themselves indignantly, "Why was this ointment wasted like that? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor." And they scolded her. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, and whenever you want, you can do good for them. But you will not always have me. She has done what she could, and she has anointed my body beforehand before burial. And truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her." So let's talk about this. So in Jesus's time, if a guest entered someone's home, typically what they would do is they would get their feet washed in a bowl of water. Since they had just been traveling on the road, the roads were pretty dirty and dusty on the roads of Israel. So when they came in someone's home, their feet were really gross. And so one of the ways that they could help them out was by washing their feet. And typically what they would do is they would add a drop of perfume into the water just to make it smell good. So maybe your mom or someone has some oils at home. So it would be similar to this. They would just drop a little bit of drop in there to make this smell good. But they wouldn't use a whole lot because the law said they could only use a little so they wouldn't become wasteful. It was important not to be wasteful. However, we see in this story that the woman was so generous in the amount of oil that she poured on Jesus's feet, while others scolded her for being wasteful. And so Jesus honored her for being so generous and having a very generous heart. So here's some questions I want you to be thinking about, okay? First one, when has someone been kind to you? And then the second question I want you to be thinking about is, how have you shown kindness to others?
Did you guys enjoy that stop with Melissa? I buy a ton of essential oils, and some of those little bottles are so expensive. I couldn't imagine dumping an entire bottle to wash somebody's feet, but Jesus is totally worth that. Before we travel to our next stop, if you have any essential oils at home, go grab a nice smelling one and put a little drop on everyone's wrist and give them each a chance to smell it, and just remember how worth it Jesus totally is. Alright guys, let's keep going to our next stop on this journey. It should be just up ahead. Oh wow! It looks like something's going on just up ahead. Let's see if we can get a closer look.
Thanks for tuning in. We're going to continue talking about the Easter story.
And on this part of the journey, we're going to be talking about overcoming obstacles.
So if you guys want to open up your Bibles to Matthew 26, we're going to read 14 to 16. Then one of the 12, the one called Judas,
Iscariot
went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over.
Here I was thinking Judas was going to cost me a fortune, but he only cost me 30 pieces of silver. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, come in. Can I help you? Judas? What are you doing? What are you wearing? What a weirdo!
Can I have my money?
Oh yes, we agreed. 30 pieces. Get out of here. The chief priests and other Jewish leaders wanted to capture and kill Jesus.
But why?
Well, they didn't like how popular he was.
Anything else?
Well, they were afraid that he might take away their power. And honestly, they didn't even believe that he was the Son of God. One of Jesus' friends named Judas went to the chief priests and asked for money to help them capture Jesus.
Like you guys just saw in the video.
Exactly. That's exactly what we did. So they gave him 30 silver coins. And from then on, Judas watched for his chance to help them, but in secret.
So here's a question for you guys to answer as a family. What do you think made Judas turn his back on Jesus?
What do you guys think?
Wow, they really made that story come alive. I have a little game for you guys to play if you'd like. If you don't want to, you can totally fast forward the video. All you need is a small coin. So pause the video, find a small coin, and I'm gonna put the activity up on the screen for you guys to play if you'd like. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, you guys can keep playing that game later, but for now, I have so much more to show you. And our next stop is just a little bit up ahead, so come along.
At this point in our journey, maybe you're a little bit hungry or thirsty. So let's take time to refuel, along with Jesus and his disciples, and look in as they celebrate the Passover meal. If you have your Bibles, turn with me to Matthew chapter 26. We're going to take a look at verses 26 through 29. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood for the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it with you new in my Father's kingdom." That evening, as Jesus sat eating the Passover meal with his disciples, he broke the bread, blessed it, and said,
"Take this and eat it, for this is my body, which I'm giving to you."
Can I actually eat it?
Then he took the cup of wine, blessed it, and said,
This represents the blood that will be poured out so that many can be forgiven of their sins. Drink it and remember me.
Jesus was talking about the fact that he was soon going to die on the cross. And then he said to them,
Listen, one of you will betray me and turn your back on me.
What?
Then the disciples asked, Who would do that?
Who would do such a thing? I don't know.
But Judas knew that they were talking about him. And as soon as he was able, he slipped out. In light of all we've learned together on this refuel stop, here's a few questions that I want you to think about and answer together as a family. First of all, why was it important for Jesus and his disciples to have that one final meal together as friends? And secondly, what is an important meal that you can think of you've had? Maybe with your family or friends or out somewhere, and what made it so special and important to you?
It's so neat to think that that same Lord's Supper that the disciples had with Jesus is the same one we partake in today. It's important to do the Lord's Supper in a way that honors him, though. It's a serious time. It's not a time for sillies. It's a time to remember the Easter story and everything that Jesus did for us. All right, come with me to the next stop on our journey. I hope you're not getting too tired yet.
In this point of our journey, we are going to be learning to trust the unknown. Let's open our Bibles to Matthew chapter 26, verses 36 to 46.
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, Sit here while I go over there and pray. And taking with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me. And going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, So could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, for the second time, he went away and prayed, My Father, if it cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the 3rd time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, Sleep, and take your rest later on. See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.
From the very beginning, Jesus knew that one of his close friends was going to turn his back on him. After he left the meal, Judas went to the high priest and told them how to find Jesus. And so, when Judas took them to Jesus in a place called Gethsemane, the soldier arrested Jesus. Here are a couple of questions for you to answer together as a family. What was the time when you were on an adventure and you experienced something hard? What did you do to push through it?
Do you remember Judas from our first stop on this journey? He was one of the 12 disciples that we tried to memorize. And then our 3rd stop on the journey, he was the one that took 30 silver coins to betray Jesus. What's going to happen to Jesus? We have 2 more stops left to find out how the story ends.
We're almost finished with our journey, and we're going to finish strong. I'm going to share with you the true story of Jesus' crucifixion from the book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 27 through 56. Jesus was taken away by the soldiers. Since you are the king of the Jews, let's dress you for the occasion. They mocked, and they dressed him in a purple robe, the color worn by kings, and put a crown of thorny branches upon his head. Then they beat him and spat in his face before putting him back in his own clothes and leading him through the streets towards Golgotha, the place where he was to be crucified. Soldiers nailed his hands and his feet to the cross and placed above his head a sign saying, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." As they raised the cross, Jesus cried, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they are doing." At midday, a shadow passed across the sun, and darkness fell over the land for 3 long hours. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Then he cried a great cry, "It is finished!" And then, with these words, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the earth shook, and the curtain in the holy temple was torn from top to bottom. When the Roman soldiers felt the ground move beneath their feet, they saw how Jesus passed away. They were deeply shaken. "Surely he was the Son of God," whispered one in amazement. For the disciples, this was the perfect time to lose hope. But Jesus trusted God's plan and knew that this wasn't the end of the story. Here are a couple questions for you to answer as a family. Put yourself in the disciples' shoes. How would you react if you saw your friend and leader, Jesus, being treated like this? Have you ever seen a friend or anyone experience something mean or unfair? How did it make you feel? What did you do?
Wow. That was the scene, wasn't it? We're going to just stop for a second and say a quick prayer of thanks to God for all of this unimaginable suffering that Jesus suffered, but so that we could be saved. I'm going to pray for you right now, but if you at home want to stop the video and say a quick prayer as well, if you all want to take a turn to say thanks, please do so. God, we thank you so much for sending your son to die on the cross for us. We thank you that he endured the suffering so that we can be whole. God, I just want to lift up the families watching this video, God, and I thank you so much for them and that they're able to join us on this journey. I pray all this in your name. Amen. Are you ready to find out how the story really ends? Because it didn't end there. That part was so sad and heartbreaking, but it's not the end. Let's head to our last stop on this journey and find out how it really ends. Surprise! You guys get to spend the last stop of the journey with me. So our story today comes from 2 different books of the Bible. It's from John 20 and from Luke 24. And I'm actually going to read it to you today from the Jesus Storybook Bible. So if you have a Bible and wanted to find those books in your own Bible and read it with your family, this one's going to be a little bit different because it's summarized for families. Jesus' friends gently carried Jesus. They laid Jesus in a new tomb carved out of rock. How could Jesus die? What had gone wrong? What did it mean? They didn't know anything anymore, except they did know their hearts were breaking. That's the end of Jesus, the leaders said. But just to be sure, they sent strong soldiers to guard the tomb. They hauled a huge stone in front of the door to the tomb so that no one could get in or out. Jesus' friends were sad. They would never see their best friend again. How could this happen? Wasn't Jesus the rescuer? The king God had promised? It wasn't supposed to end like this. Yes, but whoever said anything about the end? Just before sunrise, on the 3rd day, God sent an earthquake and an angel from heaven. When the guards saw the angel, they fell down with fright. The angel rolled the huge stone away, sat on top of it, and waited. At the first glimmer of dawn, Mary Magdalene and other women headed to the tomb to wash Jesus' body. The early morning sun slanted through the ancient olive trees, drops of dew glittering on leaves and grasses like little tears everywhere. The friends walked quietly along the hilly path through the olive groves until they reached the tomb, and immediately noticed something odd. It was wide open. They peered through the opening into the dark tomb. But wait, Jesus' body was gone. And something else, a shining man was there with clothes made from lightning. "Don't be scared," the angel said. But they couldn't help it. They screamed anyway. The angel asked them, "What are you doing here? This is a tomb, and tombs are for dead people." The women couldn't speak. "Jesus isn't dead anymore," he said. "He's alive again." And their hearts leapt, And then the angel laughed with such gladness that they felt, for a moment, as if they had woken from a nightmare. The other women rushed home, but Mary stayed behind. How could it be true? Jesus was definitely dead. How could he be alive? Just then, Mary heard someone else in the garden. Perhaps it's the gardener, she thought. He'll know where Jesus' body is. I don't know where Jesus is, Mary said urgently. I can't find him. But it was all right. Jesus knew where she was, and he had found her. Mary! Only one person said her name like that. She could hear her heart thumping. She turned around, and she could just make out a figure. She shaded her eyes to see and thought she was dreaming. But she wasn't dreaming. She was seeing. Jesus! Mary fell to the ground. Sudden tears filled her eyes and great sobs shook her whole body. And all she wanted in that moment was to cling to Jesus and never let him go. You'll be able to hold on to me later, Mary, Jesus said gently, and always be close to me. But now, go and tell the others that I am alive. So, families, in just a minute, I want you to pause and discuss. I just have one question for you today. Share a time when you had a great celebration. What did it feel like? Who was there? How did you celebrate? Pause the video and have a talk with your family. So our Easter Escapade has come to a close. Our adventures with Jesus continue. And just like any adventure we are on, in the celebrations, the setbacks, the disappointments, the confusing times, we know we can trust God just like Jesus. Thank you so much for joining us today. Goodbye.
Hey guys, hope you're off to a great day. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jessica. And we just first want to start out by saying we miss you guys so much.
So much. We love you, and just know that we are praying for you, and we cannot wait till all of this is behind us and we can have a major group hug with our church.
Hi, I'm Melissa. Thank y'all so much for joining us on this journey today. I hope that you and your family have a wonderful Easter.
Hey, we're the Vasquez family, and we wanted to say hello and that we miss you, church family, during this time.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Fellowship Pickering. I'm Casey.
I'm Kelly.
Thanks so much for joining us on this journey. We can't wait to see everyone again. We love you guys.
Bye. Hope to see you soon.
Hey, we're the Hesh family. I'm Isaac.
I'm Sienna.
I'm Gavin.
I'm back.
I'm Erica, and this is Cadence. Hope you enjoyed the video.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.